Acts of the Apostles. This is the lecture on text criticism. Now, many of you will have heard of ideology before, and many of you will never have heard of text criticism before. And there's a reason for that. Most of the time when you do exegesis in English, you don't get a chance to think or look at text criticism. So this week we have an unusual opportunity to think about text criticism in the Acts of the Apostles, because we're doing exegesis in English, but we have access to some of the manuscript traditions. And we have access to them without having to read Greek. What makes this possible is that Acts of the Apostles exists in two similar, but in very important ways different, manuscript traditions. And there are clear and observable differences, and scholars have gone out and taken the time to translate each manuscript separately so that you can see the differences between the manuscripts. One tradition, the one that you're going to have click and go onto the web and read, is called the Codex Bezae. A codex is a great big book with papyrus and handwritten words on it. And this is the Western edition, which is to say it was the edition that was being used in Rome and the western part of the church. Many scholars think it's not as accurate as the edition on which the New Revised Standard Version is based, which is the North African or Alexandrian edition. And so you have two different editions of Acts with some important variations between them. Because these are different editions, you should be able to read Codex Bezae, read the English version of Acts of the Apostles, and see the differences. And in your paper this week, what you should have been doing is comparing your pericope in Codex Bezae with your pericope in the New Revised Standard Version or in the version of your choice to see how things are different. In the forum, I want you to speak to the manuscript differences overall and the implications for reading Acts 6 to 8 through the lens of text criticism. Take very seriously Botta's call to see these differences as evidence of the vibrancy and diversity of the early Christian movement. The vibrancy and diversity of the early Christian movement. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Suppose somebody is talking about Methodism in the United States in the 21st century, and the only Methodism they talk about is the United Methodist Church. So they only get one Methodist perspective. They don't get the AME or the AME Zion or the CME or any of the other Wesleyan groups' perspectives. All they get is that one church. Well, that's kind of what we do when we look at English translations. We only get that one perspective on how the Bible says and what the Bible says. When we use multiple manuscript traditions, we can see, well, these folks said it this way, but these folks said it this way, and what difference does that make on their theology? To take Botta very, very seriously. Take also seriously Cesnat's critique of how the various manuscript traditions are hidden in our English translations. Those little italics that say in some traditions, in some translations it says, or in some traditions it says. Take Cesnat's critique very seriously, read it carefully, think about it, let's talk about it in the forums. Consider also the implications of Rick Carson's article. Cottrell Ricardo Carson went to school with me, so that's full disclosure. And I know that article because I remember when he wrote it. And he was taking on one of the critical persons in biblical interpretation, Bruce Metzger, around Acts and saying, you're reading Acts 8 in a racially biased way, and he was using text criticism to prove it. So look seriously at how Rick Carson writes that article. And think about this. What if, instead of having one English Bible, because even the various translations that say they're so different are all basing themselves off the same manuscript tradition. What if instead of having one manuscript tradition, we had the Codex Bezae version of the Acts of the Apostles next to the Alexandrinus version of the Acts of the Apostles, next to the other kinds of manuscript versions on our shelves, so that we could really see that the New Testament is a library. We might have one shelf of translations of Acts, or manuscript traditions of Acts, one shelf of manuscript traditions of Luke, and so on. Now, as I did last week, I'm going to divide you into kinds of responses to Acts 6 to 8. 1/3 of you will look through the lens of your own social location, 1/3 through the lens of ideology, and 1/3 through the lens of text criticism. So those of you doing ideology are going to go back and look at last week's questions, last week's readings, and read Acts 8 through those readings. Those looking at personal location are going to come back to those first questions we did, the Norman Gottwald questions, the person inventory questions, and consider Acts 6 to 8 through that lens. Those doing text criticism are going to look at Acts 6 to 8 through that lens. This will be in addition to your normal discussion group role. So one that is your discussion group role, and one that deals specifically with either social location, ideology, or text criticism. Don't fret too much about not knowing the Greek if you don't know the Greek, and I don't think I've taught Greek to any of you in this class. But if it does whet your appetite to teach Greek, you might let that be known on your course evaluations when the end of the semester comes, because that would be a little bit of incentive for us to try to teach Greek online. And you know, it's about time I think we did that. So stay tuned, but we need a critical mass of folks to try it out. I will talk to you next week. See you in the forums.